music was my getaway from all the unpleasant things life threw at me. So I liked the talent. We started talking and got closer. An extreme close. Then the unexpected happened. I was 25 and he was 22. I wouldn't say I was too young to know how to protect myself, but I think I was naive. I was still that tomboy transitioning to womanhood and knew very little about the most important things about women. I knew nothing about safe periods and ovulation and the complexities of the month. I grew up with my mother, but vagina and penis were like taboo words in our house. The closest she had come to giving me sex education was when she once forcibly opened my legs to inspect my hymen. After that, she warned me that if I broke my virginity, she would grind pepper and ginger and set it down there. That was my teenage. I was much older now and more independent, but I still knew next to nothing about my reproductive system and its cycle. I knew at this stage that I could get pregnant. I tried to abstain as much as possible, and when it had to happen, I protected myself, but I lost my guard with Sarkodie and had to pay dearly. I called him on the phone and said we needed to talk. He still lived with his mother, and this was not the kind of news to break in the house. I called him out of the house when I got to Tema, and we sat in my Toyota RAV4. He drove a Toyota Matrix at the time, if my memory serves me right. I sensed the intensity in his emotions when I broke the news to him. I could hear his heart pounding, boom, 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 boom. And when he finally found his voice, he faltered. His message was, however, unambiguous. He didn't want the pregnancy. That would damage him and his career. The only option was to get rid of it. Whether or not his career and the uncertainty of life were the real reasons he could not afford to let me keep the pregnancy, I cannot tell. I later discovered that he had a girlfriend who was attending a university outside the country. It was in her absence that he got involved with me, and things got dangerously complicated. Whatever it was, his stance was clear, and I was left to evaluate my own options. The first thing that hit me when he said no to keeping the pregnancy was my own life. I had grown up without a father in my life. I had often reminded him I had been born by mistake. I was still wondering if the man whose name I bore was my father. How was I going to bring another human being into this world to live like me? Someone whose father would reject him or her as Mr. Nelson had rejected me. If there was a way to spare someone else the trauma I was contending with, why would I reject that option? Especially when I was not psychologically and emotionally prepared to be a mother. In my circles, only 2 of my friends knew about my pregnancy. If someone else knew apart from the 3 of us, I don't know who told that person. I later discovered that Sarkodie's team also knew about it. As I wondered what to do next, a friend of mine said she knew of a certain pill that I could take and get rid of the fetus before it festered. She was in a hostel and had a room to herself. That made her hostel the ideal place to do it. If I tried it at home, my mother would know about it, and hell would come crashing down on an already troubled earth. So one weekend, I visited her and took the pills. I swallowed one and inserted the other into too much information. Let's leave it here.
Check it. Nah, girl, you know
Helen.
I thought you were going to read the entire chapter for us.
I beg you.
That made for some interesting reading.
The detail is in the facility at Mamprobi and all has come inside. But the detail is.
That particular incident she's talking about, having an abortion, she said happened some 13 years ago. She was 25.
Yeah.
Michael Ubusu Ado
was 22
years old. So at that age, even though you feel very grown, looking back now,
and the defendant,
very young, but she's sharing her story, and there's some revelations in the book that I didn't even know about Yvonne Nelson. And we often say our celebrities are secretive, we don't know much about them, they don't give us insights,
now you have everything.
Now we have everything. It was no holds barred. And some people said, well, could she have omitted certain names, and could she have, sadly, when it's somebody's story to tell, if you don't dictate, you cannot. And if you find yourself in there, you find yourself in there. I often say, listen, we are all a villain in someone else's story. If somebody should narrate their encounter with you, you might not be the angel that you present. We are all.
Will you be writing a book soon?
I would love to write a book.
William is in your book.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years before the 2010, that was when,
right.
I mean, I'd known Yvonne back to back for 5 years.
Hey, it was back to back.
I mean, when she came to participate in the Miss Ghana,
okay.
I was working on.
We wanted clarification. It was a back to back.
Yvonne, if she's listening, I mean,
no.
It was a back to back.
It's the back to back.
We used to work on
the book.
Yeah, but my name is not there though.
Yeah, in the book.
Well, we're not sure. We've not finished reading.
In the book, we got close, very close. And even closer.
But that is no back to back. Because if I were there, back to back would have come in.
Back to back.
So I remember when during the pageant, she was backstage reading her speech, and I got to her and said, look, if you continue reading the speech like this, if you go, you fumble. So just forget it and go and do your thing. And before that, I had done some media relations for the business. Sparrow Productions, so I had gotten close to all of them. And when she launched her glaucoma project, I was one of the journalists who, promoted the whole thing. So Yvonne and I have gone way back. But Yvonne, the way she is, sometimes you have some spats here and there. But I didn't know at the 2010. We're working on the project. I remember she came to Graphic and I did some interviews. We went to Golden Tulip, if I remember right. That's when we did a launch. And I didn't know, of course, I wouldn't know she was pregnant at the time. So, and Sarkodie had also come. I was covering the art, so of course we're all writing about Sarkodie and all that. So for me, the issues that she's written about, the most fundamental part is for the issue of family. People, and I'm now beginning to understand her more, because in fact there was an incident. We traveled to Nigeria, and there was an incident between Yvonne and I, and the way she behaved, and I'm now sitting back reading portions of a book, trying to understand her. So if society is going to grow, and our children are going to have all the emotional support in a very close-knit family, I think some of the things that she went through wouldn't happen. And I feel sad when she's still talking about her father, and the book was launched on Father's Day. And I think she chose that day for a reason. And these are the issues that I would want to talk about, because family is everything. Now that, even men are going some way, society is at risk. You know what I'm talking about? This transgender, LGBT.
Tomorrow
and so,
you can wake up and say, you feel like a microphone. You are falling in love with the cord.
Children are born not as gifts to parents, but as elements of sustenance for life itself. You know what I mean? So if a child is born and she doesn't have all the support from the father and the mother, and depending on how he or she was born, and society may lose, because a lot of the people that we see on the streets are products of some of these things. And if you sit down with them as social workers and you interview them, you realize a lot of them have come from backgrounds like this, where there was no mother, there was no father, and so they lead certain lives. So sometimes we need to be slow in judging people, because you don't know their story. You may know their glory, but you don't know their story. So at the end of the day, the book is a good one in terms of letting her, let out the pent-up feelings that she has had over the years. As I said, I worked with her, but I didn't know a lot of the intricacies of her life, and she mentions Mr. Nelson, and she's not even too sure whether the Mr. Nelson that
well, the last chapter of the book is an apology to Mr. Nelson.
Yes, and I know a Nelson. I'm somebody whose family has that Nelson name, and so thinks that they are related. So if today the Nelson wasn't the man, and then what even happens to that kind of relationship? You know what I mean? So I hear that your father is a Nelson. So all the time we are growing up as cousins.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we hear that the man was not your father after all. So what happens to those?
You're going to pull
and I think she said that happened in her life.
Yes.
Another person was mentioned, so she tried to get closer to that family,
only
to find out that's not.
That is too much of a trauma. That is too much of a trauma. So I think, especially as fathers, my understanding is that women are already born with the eggs that they would have for life, but we are the ones that will give them the seed,
right,
to have the babies,
to germinate.
But we can't go around the whole world pissing. You know, you're a driver, you're a soldier, you're a journalist, you're a teacher. Everywhere you go, you stop, you piss, you piss. Then you create all kinds of troubles.
I spoke with a senior driver, and he said the children I see at his home, the 4, they are the official ones.
Look at that.
So when he dies, the unofficial ones, they will come.
Yes. And we've worked at places where doing funerals.
Yes. You see the children.
Yes.
And then the benefits that the individual left becomes a problem because your name is not there.
I know somebody who died, whose wife's best friend also bought 2 children for him while they were still best friends. So the wife never knew about it. It was on the day of the funeral.
Yes.
And the children, and if you look at his children and you look at
the other kids, they look the same.
You don't need a DNA test.
So Johnny, it is not for us to be excited about the controversies and things in the book, but rather look at the serious issues that have been listed in the book, especially when she said she had to abort because of her own background. We don't know what that child would have done to Ghana with all our problems. It is Zuckerberg. Look at what he alone has done to the American economy.
Elon
Look
Musk.
at what Bill Gates. Look at what those individuals are doing today. It is not the government of America who is doing anything. It is not Trump. It is not Biden. Those people. So if you and I were aborted because of what our parents went through, would we be here speaking about issues like this? So those are things that I sit back and I want to reflect. Some of us may not say things about ourselves on air, but everybody has a story.
I know a medical doctor now who's saving lives, whose mother told me that when she was pregnant with him, in fact, the father asked that she be aborted because he said he wasn't ready. So the mother distanced herself, went away, had the baby, took care of the baby. After 8 years, the father says, okay, you bring the baby. And today, she's a medical doctor saving lives.
And with a few exceptions, we know that abortion is a crime in this country. With a few exceptions.
That's right.
Where maybe
if there's a health
issue or somewhere
the mother is not of
sound mind or is incestuous and all those things. But when there are all these things notwithstanding or they are not present in the elements and you still go ahead and abort, then is the reason why you aborted cannot be countenanced, cannot be left to go on in society, such as being born without knowing. I mean, how? If you look at the Children's Act, it is your right to know your parents, because children are born through nature and they are brought up through nature, and the nature and nature all depend on the father.
But if you for example read the book and she goes out to ask the mother, and the mother says, no, this man is your father, and then you go and do the DNA test only to be told that it is not that, then your mother is keeping something from you.
I think that part was also very sad, and like William says, everybody has a story, and so sometimes when you go online, everybody has a story, and those who are quite brave to consequences be damned will share the story and go a step further. And I think that's an act of bravery, especially in the society that we live in, to reveal some of these things and still be able to walk with your head held high. I think we're also advancing as a society when it comes to some of these conversations. I think a lot of people came to the table with very sober reflections and very well thought out opinions. I didn't see too much bashing of hair, especially with the abortion, which surprised me because we're also a very conservative nation. I think people wanted to explore more themes. In fact, there was a public health worker who was speaking yesterday on a space concerning the book, who also talked about, forgetting even about the pregnancy part of it, we also have STIs in the system that young young people must also think about. So when you are in a relationship, as young as you are, without all the knowledge and guidance, you shouldn't only be worried about pregnancy. You should also be worried about the STIs and all of that. I think that was an important point to note. And I'm happy the book has given us some themes to talk about, to explore, and to enrich ourselves as a community.
Okay, we have to take a break now. And I want to say a big fat happy birthday to two special people.
3FM Sunrise.
Akofa Miss AK. She's part of her birthday. Today's a birthday. Oh, she has a birthday. Oh wow! Happy birthday, Miss AK.
Happy birthday.
Wind down, madam. Country, madam.
Hey, Akofa has some juicy playlists. So when you want to wind down and so on and so forth.
But she doesn't have a boyfriend.
Oh, Jaisa.
By this time. By this time. Akofa pa. What's going on?
This year's Akofa's year. She's gonna get a boo.
Oh please.
But you can
every day quiet.
Have you tried to introduce her to a lovely young man?
Hey. Ask her.
So you say, oh, this is my paddy, good guy, cool guy. Then you introduce her.
You know what she said? Oh, Mr. Hughes. Yeah, every day. Happy birthday to you, Miss AK.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, no worry. Happy 61st birthday to my own mother, Mother Presla Prudence Na Adwa Lai. It's your birthday today, 61 years and strong. God bless you, make you great and strong, enlarge your coasts, and also answer all of your heart's desires. This is from my old boy, the Venerable Major Ebenezer Ni Adelai, and all the children, Maud, Selena, Edmond,